Today is Wednesday, October 2nd, 2013, and Joe Turner and myself, Judy Meyer, are talking with Carl and Juanita Riepl.
Riepl.
Riepl. Could you spell your last name for us?
R-I-E-P-L.
R-I-E-P-L.
P-L.
And can you tell us, Carl and Juanita, where do you live now?
We now live in a retirement home where St. Joseph's Hospital used to be in Kirkwood.
Do you like it there?
Most of the women all like it well. Most of the men, I think, wish they were back in their houses.
Where did you live before you moved there?
For 10 years before that, we lived way down in South County off of Hageman Road on Studer Lane in a subdivision called Hageman Crossing subdivision.
For 10 years you lived?
For 10 years. That was after the airport took our house.
Oh, I see. Well, where were you before that?
On Grundy Court.
Grundy.
Right.
In Bridgeton.
In Carrollton.
In Carrollton.
Right.
How long did you live in Carrollton?
Let's see, Kathy was in kindergarten when we moved there, right?
Yes.
So I think it was 64 when we moved there.
1964 you moved into Carrollton?
Right. And I can't remember the year that the airport took our house.
What brought you to Carrollton?
I had been working for RCA in Camden, New Jersey. And RCA, which was a good company, started having layoffs in the engineering field, which they had never had before. And so I had people interviewing for my job while I was working away.
Uh-oh.
And so that didn't look very promising. So McDonnell Douglas came through Philadelphia looking for people. I went on an interview. 2 weeks later, I got an offer to come work for McDonnell as a reliability engineer on Gemini. And I took it, and we moved very shortly after that back to St. Louis.
Oh, so you started off in St. Louis.
Yeah, both she and I are from St. Louis originally. And we had our parents here. And so it was an opportunity for us to move back to St. Louis.
Did you have children at the time you moved back?
Yes.
How many children did you have?
3.
And so none of them were born in St. Louis, or?
One was born in St. Louis, the oldest girl, and then the other 2 were born in New Jersey.
I see. Then when you moved back, where did they go to school?
Went to Carrollton.
Carrollton.
Right.
Now, I met Juanita a long time ago when my kids were going to Carrollton grade school, and I know, Juanita, that you were helping in the library. Is that right?
Yes.
You didn't work at the library,
She
Liz.
did.
I did.
Oh, you did? I'm
Yes.
sorry, I have the
For
information.
2 years, or
Well,
I don't know the times.
She was a substitute librarian in Pattonville for 17 years.
Oh, okay.
That was another thing, plus the first.
Okay, but I know I met you because I volunteered at the
Yes.
library,
Oh.
maybe one day a week or whatever, and I met Juanita.
Mm-hmm.
And did all 3 of your children then graduate from Pattonville?
Yes.
I think so.
Were you happy with Carrollton and Pattonville in general?
We loved Carrollton. We thought it was a wonderful community. We hated to leave it.
I think many, many, many people that we've talked to feel the same way. What was it about Carrollton that made it special for you?
It was a neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
The people next to us, we had, 5 generations?
What do you mean, 5 generations?
The people that owned the house traded with their parents, traded houses with their parents, and so their parents moved in next to us, and they moved into their parents' house. And then later, the two boys came back and lived in the house together. And then later, sister came back with her husband, and they had children there and lived there, so we had all those different generations grow up next to us.
And you got along well with the majority of your neighbors?
Yes, we did.
That's nice. That makes it real pleasant.
Yeah.
Did very many of them that you knew work for McDonald's?
A lot of the people in Carrollton worked for McDonald's, yes.
So was that kind of a big draw that Carrollton had a lot of people working at McDonald's and you worked for McDonald's? Was that like a big draw for you?
No, it was the fact that it was so close to work, I could get to work in 10 minutes.
That's nice.
What was your commute? How did you drive back and forth to work?
Usually I would go down to Missouri Bottom Road and come in and hit Lambert and cross over and make the turn at, I can't remember the name of that.
Banshee or something like that?
Banshee, yes. We'll go in that way.
How did you get to Missouri Bottom Road?
On Fifi,
On Fifi, which just went straight
yeah,
from where we are in the community center now, it went straight north.
Right.
from there, basically.
I also know, there again, I've known you and know that you were members of John Calvin Church.
Right.
And then now John Calvin is located, what, on the corner?
right. We bought the old Circuit City building at the corner of St. Charles Art Road and Natural Bridge.
But before that, where was John Calvin
We had
located?
a beautiful church over on, what was that?
Thinking.
I'm sorry, I can't, it escapes me as well.
But near Bonfils or Guest Road, either one?
It was,
It wasn't off Gist,
no.
it was off Bonfils, wasn't it?
Bonfield, yes.
And were you members of the church for a long time?
Yeah, we've been members there for 45 years.
Wow,
Yes.
wow. Are there still many of the members that were there before?
Good many. Probably 30 members that we had from the other church. But unfortunately, we keep losing the older people.
Right,
The,
right.
We just lost one of them this last week,
Oh, really?
Dorothy Kemper.
Oh, that's sad.
She was down in Tennessee.
Oh, uh-huh. Mhm. What, did you help, or were you with Carrollton School for a long time, Juanita?
what?
Well, like how long were you doing things at Carrollton School? Was it after your children were out of school, did you still stay there and
They
work
went-
it?
We moved.
Marcia says no.
Marsha.
And who is Marsha?
She's our
Behind you.
middle daughter.
Would Marsha like to join our interview? Would you like to come up with your mom and dad?
Yeah.
Help them out a little bit?
Can I
Yes.
sit, like, not in the camera? Just
No, it'd be nice if you sat on either
Speak
side
for
of mom and
anymore.
dad. Maybe you could remember the name of the street that John Calvin Church was on?
I don't know, is it Larchboro or was it?
Yeah, it was Larchburg.
Okay, well, there you go. You helped us out. Marsha, many of the people that might be interested in watching this interview that will be available on the internet will not have known what the Carrollton area was like. Because right now, you really aren't supposed to be driving through it. So these streets that we talk about now, a lot of people won't even know they existed and where they were and the relationship between your street, Grundy, to Natural Bridge. So that's what we'd like to do. We'd like to kind of make it clear the relationship of the places, stores, streets, schools, where they were in relationship to what is here right now, to make it clear. So Marsha, did you go to Carrollton School
I did.
and through Pattonville?
I did.
What was it like going to Carrollton and Pattonville? Can you tell us?
Well, I just have a couple of memories of Carrollton that we would walk down Grundy and then was it Selwyn we would get on? And then get on the street that Carrollton was on, what, I don't know what that street was. But you would just, basically, you would walk down Grundy and you would hit Selwyn, right? Go over 270 and then you would just turn left. So I don't even know if it was a mile.
Go past St. Lawrence School.
Yeah, past
Which
St.
isn't
Lawrence.
there anymore
Right.
either,
And
unfortunately.
St. Lawrence, I think, backed on 270. So basically, our house backed on 270, and we would just cross 270, and then Carrollton backed on 270 also. So it wasn't a hard trip, and we would just sometimes we would stop on the neighbors' yards and have lunch or something.
Really?
Or, have a picnic. And there was a cut through from St. Lawrence. You could walk through their parking lot and cut onto Selwyn through someone's backyard. They had built a fence along the two houses, so we could just walk right through. It was a nice little cut through and get.
Did you walk to school often?
I think we didn't walk all the time, but if it was a nice day and there were enough of us. But that was elementary school. Then you got to junior high school, and that was over by Northwest Plaza, so we couldn't walk to that school.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, we went to Holman, and then we went to Pattonville, so.
Now, are you the oldest or youngest?
I'm in the middle.
Oh, you're the middle. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, who's the first one?
Kathy was the oldest. She was born in 1960, and Karen is the littlest, and she was born in 1963. So,
I see.
and I'm in 1962.
I see.
So,
What do you remember about going to Pattonville High School?
Pattonville High School. I know we had just got the new building,
Oh.
or it happened while I was at high school, so that was pretty neat. I was in the marching band, and I remember marching on the field, and we had plays, and we were in the drama, so band and drama, and
Plays.
choirs,
They
yeah,
had
She
plays.
was in one of the plays there.
yeah.
Mhm.
But it was a nice school. It was a big school, very big. But I just remember getting off the bus, and in those days the kids could smoke outside, and they just had a big smoking area, and we would walk through. The bus would all drop us all off at the same spot, and we would all walk through. And I guess you could go outside during the day. It wasn't like nowadays where they don't let the kids out, but. So we had gym outside, we had a big fields, so it was always a nice school.
Juanita, did you do any volunteering at the high school? I know you were involved at the grade school. Did you work or do
Yeah.
anything at the high school?
Yeah, but she didn't volunteer. She was working there as a substitute.
Well, yeah, part of the last,
Yeah.
yeah.
She did Girl Scouts.
The other, yeah, all three of us are Girl Scouts.
Right, they took them up to the junior level, I think.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
We were talking about John Calvin. Do you remember going to John Calvin?
Yeah. And I guess my husband's family lived on, Bonfils, when we were little,
Which was the main street that went
Right.
through, right?
Right, it comes up to
Yes.
Gist, and then Phoebe's off of Gist, right? So they lived on Bonfils, kind of at the top, and the Telshers were up there also. Was it the Telshers?
Telshers were at the top of the,
Right, so they were friends with the Telshers, and they went to our church, and then I think in 4th grade they moved out of the neighborhood.
her husband's parents.
But then my mom and dad kept in contact with the family, and so when we went to college together, we accidentally met.
Oh, I
So-
see.
But we had known the family, so that was nice.
Where did you grow up, Carl? What part of?
Down in South County, on Forder Road.
Oh, I know where that is. Yeah. I do know where that is.
and she was off of Butler Hill Road.
Oh, so you were both South St. Louis people?
Right.
So,
Way south.
Right. And now, and then you became, what would you call this, North St. Louis, or?
Whatever Bridgeton is.
Yeah, Bridgeton people. And
She
you-
still considers Bridgeton home. Whenever we come off the road at St. Charles Rock Road, she says, home.
yes, I think that's a wonderful feeling to have such good memories and feelings about it.
and
What did you do, Carl, after you graduated from high school? And what high school did you go to?
Melville.
Oh, okay. Where did you do after high school?
Army,
Let's see, I went in the Army, not after high school, that was after college. I went to college at Washington U, got a degree in electrical engineering. And then I went to work for RCA in Canton, New Jersey when I graduated. But she had, after she graduated from college at Cape, she had come back to Melville High School, and she was the librarian for the senior high and junior high for 2 years while I finished my degree.
but where did the Army?
Okay, then after I graduated from WashU, I had gone through ROTC, and so I had a 6.5-year obligation. And I went in the Army in September of that year, and
Do you remember what year that was?
it would have been 58.
Okay.
And so I was in the Army for 2 years, and we ended up going to Fort Eustis, Virginia for my basic officers training. And after that, then, when we got out of that, they came in and they wanted to know how many of us were engineers. And those of us that were, they said they were moving the development responsibility for Army aircraft from Transportation Research Engineering Command at Fort Eustis to Transportation Material Command in St. Louis. And if we wanted to go back, go to St. Louis to let them know, and they'd change our orders. So I called her, and we were living in a garage in rental apartment in Denby, Virginia, and asked her, did she want to go back to St. Louis? And she said, oh, yes. So I changed my orders, and we came back here and lived back in St. Louis for 2 years in South St. Louis.
And where was your job located? Was it
Transportation, it was in the Mart Building at 12th and Spruce.
downtown?
So I took the bus back and forth usually, or sometimes I would drive. No, the one here.
Oh, then you bought a house on Whitby Hall. Where was?
No, we didn't buy a house. We rented for a year at Whitby Hall subdivision,
Where's that?
south on Lindbergh.
Whitehall Manor?
Yeah, whatever.
Okay. That's still actually Bridgeton.
Right. So we were living there for a year.
I see.
And the guy that we rented from was a real good landlord, but he was a collector of Kaisers and Frasers.
A collector of, excuse me, what?
Kaiser and Fraser automobiles,
Oh,
and he was also editor and publisher of the Kaiser Fraser Journal. And so every year he would take one of his old Kaiser and Frasers and bring it to his house and work on it for most of the year, trying to get it ready for the auto show they had every year. And
was this inside a garage that he was working on it?
no, it was usually in his driveway, so the subdivision hated him, and they usually tried to get him somehow penalized for that because there were kind of oil spots and everything on his driveway.
This isn't exactly in the same thing, but if you'll excuse me while I deviate here. I have heard from someone that someone was building an airplane in the Carrollton subdivision area. Are you familiar with that?
I think I remember that, but I don't remember who
You
it
don't,
was.
you don't know too much about it, and you don't either, Marsha? Okay, I'm sorry.
What kind of
It
aircraft
just,
was it?
when you're talking about building outside your house, it just kind of reminded me of that.
Happened, it did happen.
But do you know what kind of airplane it was?
I think think it was one of those experimental airplanes, but I'm not sure.
It was white.
It was white.
It was white.
And they weren't using any cast-off McDonnell Douglas
Oh.
components.
No, I don't think so.
I remember the Bayou Bell on St.
Oh, yeah.
What about the Bayou Bell? Where was that located?
In
was down
Target's
there
parking lot, right? In the parking lot of, is it Target still,
Pretty
right
close.
there
No,
or
it's
not?
It's closer to the Red Lobster.
Fazoli's
Yeah.
parking lot. And it was a beautiful boat that had been brought up and put in place as a restaurant. And so it was a quite nice restaurant. And one day, and I don't remember how we found out, but it
Well, I was gonna turn 16 and go there on my birthday and it burned down.
caught
Oh,
fire. And even though it was right there by the fire department, they couldn't put it out.
why?
Mm. So
It was
sad.
made of wood.
Yeah,
It was a,
It was a old wood steamboat, I guess.
riverboat. It had a paddle wheel.
It was an authentic boat, in other words.
Authentic boat.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
And it was an upscale restaurant in Bridgeton.
Yes, it was.
And you were looking forward to that.
Darn.
And you didn't make it there.
Nope.
I don't believe I ever did either. Did you?
Did we do- we did-
We saw it.
No, did you
Did
ever
we
eat
eat there?
there?
I don't know that we ever ate there, but
I think
I think we
we
did.
would.
Marcia, did you have any part-time jobs while you were in high school in the area?
I worked at my first job, I volunteered at DePaul Hospital
Oh,
with a
really?
friend. So we did candy striping,
Uh-huh.
and then I worked at the shoe fair, and then I worked at the corner drugstore, which
Oh.
we love the corner drugstore.
Why is that?
Oh, it was just the guys that owned it were so nice, and
Now, was that right around by Mrs. Telscher's hardware?
yeah, I think so. It was
No, it was actually where the real estate guy has his office on the end of that
by
strip mall.
the grocery store, I guess, closer to that end.
Do you remember what the grocery store was? Was it Del Monte?
Well, there was an IGA, there was a Del Monte's, and then there was a
JB,
JB.
right.
And
So, but
Did you-
it was a nice place to
Well,
work.
good.
Then I worked at the Pizza Hut.
And where was Pizza Hut?
Pizza Hut. Where is Pizza Hut? It was.
over there on
Is it still there? Isn't it?
McKelvey's,
On McKelvey.
I think.
Oh, yeah, sure, of
Okay.
course.
And then I worked at Man Cypress Village Theater by Northwest Plaza.
What was Northwest Plaza like when
Oh,
you
it
were,
was pretty.
like in high school?
Yeah, it was very nice. It was all outdoors then, but we really liked it. We just run around the whole plaza.
I like to ask people about Northwest Plaza because I feel it's such an interesting and amazing phenomenon how it went from being a field,
Dairy farm.
dairy farm located there to this wonderful, right, shopping center that basically the stores were individual and you had to go outside from one to the other. And it was really thriving, wasn't it?
It was thriving, I think. We went to Casual Corner, which was just a little bitty shop, I think, but we would always love to go to that one. We thought it was a real treat, so, and, but I remember all the big stores too. The Sears, I guess, Penny's, maybe Famous, so.
Which happened first? They enclosed the mall.
Oh, that was after
That
I
was
was
a long time,
gone,
okay.
yeah.
And then they built an office building, multiple stories. I don't know which one of those came first.
I don't know, I
Closed the
know,
mall first, I think.
yeah.
And she and her friends from church used to go walking over there every morning, yeah, when the mall was still outside.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we did.
Just like people do mall walking inside now, but you did the outside.
Right.
Well, that was fun.
Before the top. So,
And then once they enclosed Northwest Plaza, it was still going strong, wasn't it?
I remember, was it Chubby Checker or someone came and did a show there? Someone did, I don't know. But I remember going over there for that,
Mhm.
and it was pretty, it was so pretty when they enclosed it too. It was very nice.
But now, in 2013, it's not so nice over there now, is it?
I haven't been, I live pretty far south.
Okay. Well, they are taking buildings down, and I do not know of any plans what's gonna come in. I hope that something will, but I do not know of anything right now. But they are taking buildings down. So it's kind of sad, and I do hope that sometime when we do an interview, we can say that there's new plans. What do you remember of, and being an engineer, Carl, what did you think when they were starting to do the Earth City project and building?
I wasn't happy about it then, but in retrospect, it was probably not a bad idea.
What did you think would happen? Because that area used to flood a lot,
Right,
didn't it?
I thought it would eventually be flooded.
It did too, a couple times, didn't it?
It will again.
Yeah.
But the whole area down there in Earth City area is just full of commercial businesses, and including the Rams.
Right.
The
Rams Park.
Yeah, right, and hotels down there and everything. So, looking back on it, you think it wasn't such a bad idea?
I think it wasn't such a bad idea.
Is there anything else that you remember about church or school or community you'd like to tell us about?
I'm scared
No.
to talk.
She-
I loved that place.
Wonderful.
When we first had it and got the children growing up, it was just perfect. And it all fell out, you know,
We had,
because the,
our oldest daughter was ready to go into kindergarten. It seems to me, I remember at that time that either Hazelwood or Pattonville didn't have a kindergarten. That was one of the concerns. And so our church started a preschool, what do you call it?
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
Preschool.
Mhm.
And it was Margaret Dubale and Doreen Hoppin, I think, were the people that staffed it mainly. And they ran that for several years until whatever district got a kindergarten, I think.
Yeah.
we had that.
I just
Most
rem-
people never heard of it. It was good.
It was good, yeah. Most of the teachers, I think, lived in the neighborhood too, so you knew where the teachers lived.
Right, Frank Gallagher, of course, was the phys ed guy at Carrollton. And she used to help with the, every year, what do they call that?
Field day?
Field day.
Right, I did also. I enjoyed it.
Yes.
It's a lot of fun.
Mr. Houston went to the church with
Yeah.
them.
Bill Houston was one of our church members, and he was a football coach at the high school.
Oh, uh-huh.
And he had 3 kids, I think. So we were friends with their kids. And I remember after they had bought out Bridgeton, I was working up at Mallinckrodt one day, and I guess it was 9/11. Before 9/11, the planes would land at Lambert like every 2 minutes, I think I was timing it. And then afterwards, they didn't come, but maybe 15, 20 minutes apart. And their church had been bought out, but it hadn't been leveled yet. And it was such a pretty church. They had just added onto it. It had beautiful stained glass windows. And I mean, everybody had saved their money for so long to build this beautiful church. And then I thought, well, now they won't knock it down because the airport doesn't need to expand because there's no airplanes landing. You know, it's like they lost the hubs and all that. They don't need to build that runway, but they went ahead and knocked it down anyway.
They did. It's very sad that so many people had to move out of the Bridgeton area. And it's just a shame. I mean, in a way, we are fortunate to have an airport so close to us that if we need to use the airport, we can be there quickly.
Right.
But on the
And now
other,
it's pretty too, because it's been rebuilt and it's real pretty.
that's right. The place you are in now, as I was going to say, where is it?
It's in Kirkwood where St. Joseph's Hospital used to be.
Right off of Big Bend on Couch. So right next to St. Louis Community College.
And you still come here this way for church?
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
We have these friends, Herm Heber and Bev Meyer, that pick us up every Sunday and bring us to church and take us home.
Oh, that's very
And
nice.
they do that for most of the church functions. So we're
And
very
their
fortunate.
kids went to Pattonville too. So.
Yep.
That's very, very nice.
And his friends from college, his fraternity brothers, go to church.
Right. That was one of the reasons we started going to John Calvin, was when we first moved back here, we were alternating between Methodist Church, Arlington, and John Calvin. But Arlington didn't have, a child care person? I don't remember. But but John Calvin did. And then my friend Gil Elliott and his wife Marion were going to John Calvin, and so that was a real draw for us to go to John Calvin. So we went there.
And Doyle.
And then later, another fraternity brother, Doyle Whitten, came back and started going to our church as well. It still is.
The team.
Right.
Now, where do you have children, Marsha?
I do.
Where did they go to school?
They went to Fox.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
I see.
Her daughter is now a missionary in Berlin.
Your daughter?
She just started, so, and, yep, it's with the
She won.
Evangelical Free Church of America, so. For a year, we'll see.
How many grandchildren do you have?
7.
7. Did any of them stay in the Bridgeton area and go to Pattonville?
No,
No?
they're all in California.
Oh, really?
And we've got 3 great-grandchildren out there also.
Well, my other sisters went to St. Louis University High School, so that's where they are. They're in Webster Groves. But he works for McDonald Douglas, and my sister's husband grew up in Bridgeton,
Right.
so.
Our daughter Karen's husband is Mike
Kids.
Gibbons, and his family went to St. Lawrence, and they grew up in Bridgeton. And then Mike is now a vice president of Boeing, in charge of the F-18 program.
So 2 of your daughters did marry guys from Carrollton, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right.
Did you have the fireworks, event down at BMAC Park when you were growing up? Do you remember?
Was it at BMAC? It was where it floods, right? Is that where it is?
That's always
Oh,
a
that was
fun
my-
event. What were you
They
gonna
had
say?
The bicentennial. I know my mom was totally involved in the bicentennial celebration in Bridgeton. And I just remember that. They had a big parade. They had everyone that was a huge event for some reason. And Bridgeton just went all in, so.
Were you involved with the bicentennial quilt?
No, she's not a sewer,
Not a
but,
quilter.
but yeah, she's probably on the committees and
King. I just wondered.
yeah. But that was fun.
When I came into Surrey,
You
that's
were
when
in
I.
Missouri. She grew up down in Burney, Missouri with her grandmother. and moved up to St. Louis area in the 8th grade and went to Point School out in Melville School District.
Mhm.
That's something good. So, and keep going.
That's about it.
And then there
Anything?
Well, it has to
Isn't
be,
there
it has
anything else
to, it
for
has
me?
to be about Bridgeton though.
No, that's okay. We can
Yeah.
talk about other aspects of your life. You said you went to Cape Girardeau for
Yes.
college. What'd you major in?
College. What,
education.
education, yeah.
Library
And
science.
I was
librarian.
wondering, yes.
I was librarian.
And I went to Cape and that's where I met my husband, so.
Really?
Yep,
Yeah.
and my sister went to Cape and she started working at McDonald Douglas and that's where she met her husband, so.
So Bridgeton has brought a lot of people together.
Right.
Good. And we miss them.
Our next door neighbors were Lance and
Lee.
Lee Kloss. And we loved them. And I think the buyout sort of did both of them in.
Lost their.
Was that the one that had the market on the corner there of Fifi and
No.
No,
Natural Bridge? There was a Kloss's market there.
Yeah, I don't think it was the same. These were retired.
yeah, he worked for Bell Telephone, I
So do you feel it was a safe place for your girls to be growing up in and
think. Yes.
I mean, there were
When it started.
some, you know, there's always crime. Usually we knew who it was.
well, we really appreciate you coming and sitting down with us today. If there's anything else that you think about you'd like to share at this time, we'd be glad to, have your thoughts or your memories.
Well, I remember Ed Banker I had a old Opel and
A what?
Opel
Opal car?
car,
Mhm.
and it had its problems. And every time it would have a problem, I'd take it to Ed, and he would manage to put together some kind of a fix for it and keep it running. So he kept it running for many years for me. But we really liked Ed. He was a
Yes, we did.
principal man.
I think there was a little carnival that would come in across the street from where he was. Do you remember with the little horses, the ponies?
Well, Westlake Amusement Park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was,
I remember
that was not
going-
really little.
When
It
I,
wasn't little,
when
huh?
I was in
We didn't get to go very often.
elementary school, that's where the Melville School District used to have their annual picnics.
All the way out to Westlake?
Westlake.
Oh my goodness, that was quite a
It was.
drive.
I went to school in North St. Louis, and our school picnics were always out at Westlake.
And it was, I actually enjoyed Westlake pretty much.
We have interviewed people that have worked there and did go to Westlake Amusement Park. And can you define the borders for anyone just looking at this tape that might not know where Westlake was located?
I think it's over there where the restaurants are now, where Bob Evans, Olive Garden, and what sports bar are now.
On the other side of 270.
Before 270 was
Yeah.
thought of.
Yeah, and when we first moved into our house, 270 was behind us. There was only, I think, 2 lanes because it was just a bypass around St. Louis. And then by the time we moved away, I think it was 8 lanes.
Juanita, did you always drive?
Yes, I did, yes.
And you
Until
had a
they-
car and so you could go,
Well, my mom made a fuss about
what do you mean?
that. Screaming!
No, I mean, she
Yeah.
did or she
But-
didn't want you to
but,
drive?
She didn't want to take it. And so when it came my turn, I was to do it.
To learn how to drive.
Give it. But I miss it,
He doesn't
and
drive
that
anymore.
started. Yeah, it's
You know, the other
same thing.
I was gonna say Fifi Park and your mayor of Bridgeton, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
Conrad.
Yeah.
She graduated in high school in the same class with Conrad Bowers.
Yeah. And
Oh,
I try
really?
to see him every time I get a chance. So,
And
He's
this
nice.
was
And
what
his
high
wife.
school?
Now,
His wife's good.
How interesting. Well, how about that? He's
Yeah.
been mayor for how many years now? Quite a few, yes.
We
Yes.
interviewed him.
Yes, we
A
did.
couple of years ago, and.
We did.
He didn't mention that he had gone to Melville High School.
Or if he did, we had forgotten.
Maybe, we'll have to go back into the archives.
Yeah. Yeah, Pattonville isn't exactly Bridgeton, it's actually Maryland Heights, but you know, we kind of claim it.
Right.
Because I think the majority of the Bridgeton residents, you know, that's where, you know, I think public high school we would have. So we claim it also, and I'm glad you had good experience there and your sisters as well. And as I said, thank you for coming and sharing with us today, and I hope you continue to come back and visit us.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
We
All right,
have
thank you.
another girl